We are Industry 13 Team E doing our business strategy game presentation for GBA 490.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Borky, and I'm an accounting major here. So I focused on the accounting part of the project. So I went through the income statement and balance sheet and made sure we were profitable and had a healthy supply of cash on hand.
Hi, I'm Riley Graham. I'm a marketing major here and I assisted with the marketing plan.
I'm Thomas Matico. I'm a finance major and I was focused on our strategy and how we would fit into the market share.
Hey y'all, I'm Parker. I'm also a finance major, but I focused more on the operations and making sure our strategic vision was employed with our decision making.
So our original strategy we decided to go with first week was broad low cost. And in order to achieve this, we just met the average SQ rating and had a really focused on just keeping our costs low, our prices low, trying to undercut our competition, and having a high percentage of standard materials. We also focused on the broad part by maxing out the number of models we could do at 500. Now, to align our functions to implement our strategy, we expanded our facilities right away to the right places. What this means is we sold our North American facilities and moved right away to the Latin America and the Asia Pacific facilities that were a lot cheaper so that we could do our low cost strategy. Furthermore, we used those high percentage of standard materials in those places to keep prices as low as we can. And then we also lowered our prices that we were charging in our retail and wholesale to try and get the most customers from that. Our average expenditures in engine and advertising, retail support were very in the middle. We never outdid anyone on that. We were just hoping our low prices would draw the customers in. We also skipped on the corporate citizenship initiatives as we thought this was a waste of money, and it ended up not working.
So after the first couple weeks, we realized that we were competing with just about everyone in our initial strategy of going low cost, medium quality. We were all fighting for this right side, middle right side of the um, internet of the seg of all segments, really. Everyone was doing the same thing. So my idea was we were going to try to switch up from fighting for that right side to go low models and very high end. So that's what we did initially. This is telling what how we ended up. So I'll just kind of go through what our path was. So we started it out trying to do very low models. It was somewhere around 60 and get our SQ rating way up. But we weren't finding a lot of success with that, even though there was not anyone else doing it. We just weren't getting many sales. It didn't seem to be working well. But we began to week by week see a few more sales, and we kept raising our models, doing a high price. And there was one week where we really popped up and jumped up, and that's when we saw a lot of potential in the strategy. So we kept going. We got a few awards like the Leapfrog Award and things. We did intense facility expansion at the end, and we really increased our private label and sustainable CSR. So that's how we ended up near tied for second place.
Right, so as Thomas said, we actually had one year where we really spiked, and that was around year 18. You can see with these graphs, which have ROE, EPS, our net revenues, and our stock price, 18 is where we really peaked. And as Thomas said, we kind of struggled at the beginning trying to find our footing and where we were on the corporate landscape. And so year 13 is where we changed our strategy, and that's where everything kind of decreased and we were struggling to know why. And then we realized maybe if we increase the amount of models, that will help with our economies of scale and help with our financial statements. And so on year 18, actually, we were in the top 100 for our ROE, which was awesome. I think it was almost around 59 to 60-ish. And in terms of our total revenues, we definitely were following the trend of having wholesale as our leading component of it, followed by internet and then private label towards the end, because that's when we expanded our facilities in order to engage in private label, which we could definitely see the hike from year 19 to 20, seeing as how that helped us with our revenues. And our stock price, again, around year 18, really increased and showed how we were doing well in the corporate landscape. But overall, our financial performance definitely has its highs and it had its lows, but I'm happy to say we ended on a high. And so, in terms of competitive dynamics, as I said at the beginning, we were trying to replicate kind of what was working for other people, but not particularly for us, because we saw that trend of maybe there was the blue ocean towards the left hand of the graph of producing a few amount of models, but for like a high SQ rating. But just because something doesn't is working for someone else doesn't mean it would work for us, especially with trying to go with a 10% SQ rating. And the competition from those medium cost, medium quality, and high models meant a lot of those companies were competing for the same area. So we tried to escape that because the market share and the profits were just so small. And however, changing these strategies to compete in a new market segment that was less crowded basically made us completely restart our process. And in terms of what really set companies apart were celebrity endorsements. Something we struggled with at the beginning was seeing the value in these celebrity endorsements. And finally, towards the end, we realized that maybe investing in these, no matter the cost, will help us in the long run. And it definitely did.
For our strategy implementation, we switched from a broad, low cost, and focus to a differentiated strategy, and it caused our financials to plummet. And we worked out by being a high cost, high quality product with trial and error, and it took some time, but we eventually got there. Our low profit margins and falling behind on celebrity endorsements, like Parker was saying, was because we were maxing out our retail support, which was decreasing our profit marginal. So we decreased overall. Acquiring more celebrity endorsements is what helped us to boost our strategy a little bit more. Our stock buybacks increased ROE and EPS, and we emphasized on private label towards the end and increased the number of models to increase economies of scale.
So as we can see here, this is where we ended up in terms of each of the segments and each of the different regions. As you can see, we kind of had less sales in Latin America, and then we also initially were having trouble with the internet segment, but by the end we got that a lot better. And even there, you can see now that it's higher in Europe and North America than our wholesale is actually in every country. Um, but this was kind of what determined our decision making initially was these graphs in the competitive advantage section. We weren't sure exactly what to look at, but seeing this really helped us define what we wanted to do and keep track of how we were improving throughout the project.
After these past few rounds, if BSG were to continue, some strategies we would implement would be increasing the number of models up to 500, continuing to stock repurchases and sustainable CSR for bonus points. We'd focus on private label for revenues and image ratings, and refocus back on wholesale and retail support while ensuring that we always have at least 2 celebrity endorsements.
Right, so what exactly were our lessons learned? I know, at least for me, I've always been someone who takes the initiative within projects and kind of have always tried to overload and do the best I can. But in terms of that, that means I can overstep and not know exactly where my boundaries are. So I need to be a little bit more flexible and willing to make changes, especially when Thomas and Ronnie suggested that we lower our retail support. In the end, it actually really worked out because it helped all of our financials. You know, Ronnie knew best. So being able to take in what other people think is definitely a lesson I learned, as well as what I said previously, what other people are doing does not guarantee it will work for you. It seemed that companies right off the bat were automatically doing so much better than us, and we couldn't exactly figure out why. But we realized we aren't like other companies. We just need to do something different. And I think if we were to continue, we definitely would have been placing in a higher rank.
Something I learned was that cheaper doesn't always mean a greater profit. When our initial strategy of broad low cost, we were really struggling to get the quantity we needed to sell in order to make huge margins, and it was driving our margins to the ground. We were not making a very high profit. So we changed to putting a lot more money into our shoes, using superior materials, better advertising, better endorsements, and we saw a huge increase in margins that I didn't know was possible.
Yeah, and what I found was that moving out of common strategies allowed greater expansion. Everyone was talking about when you talk to your friends who are also in the group, exactly what they were doing. And a lot of people were doing the same thing that they'd heard work before. So we tried something else and it ended up helping us a lot. So that was what I learned.
I learned that being initially prepared will allow for future advantages. I felt a little bit behind because I didn't take full advantage of all the components that BSG gives you at the beginning. And I know that Parker definitely did. So I know that if you're able to take those big steps in the beginning, it makes all the future steps a lot easier.
And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.